So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the new VP Toolkit Ctrl App to calibrate and control the VIVE MARS. And we're going to do some other stage calibrations to get our little indie setup here running correctly. I now have my production camera set up with a Rover on top, and then I have a couple base stations set up around. Here's my VIVE MARS, but I'm actually not going to touch that unit during this whole setup. We're going to go to the in-camera tab, and then we're going to switch to the live link, and then we want to select which rover we're going to use for our camera, which will be Rover 1. Now we want to go into our settings, and then in your settings there's a Connect VIVE MARS cam track, and we want to make sure that the cam track has the correct IP address and correct port. Almost all the time it's using 7008, so you may not need to change that. If you go to your Rover unit, your VIVE MARS unit, it will actually say the IP address right on the front. So now if we hit connect, it will say connected, and then we will see the rovers and base stations that are connected. So once we go back to our camera tab, you can see the rovers and base stations displayed at the top of your setup. So first I'm going to do a quick AR calibration. Make sure that our plane is at the right height. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to select the plane and then select where we want our tracking and stage to be. Now, since we're not going to be using the AR tracking, I actually don't have to recenter that, but I am going to anyway because it is the exact same size as the rover. I'm going to place my AR stage here so that we can see the representation of the AR stage, and I'm going to disable my AR tracking. So we actually should see our Frustum camera kind of just pop up here. But that will change in a minute once we have our, looks like I lost it. Yep, and it's back. So now we're going to use the app to do a rover recenter. I'm going to take the rover and place it on my preset mark. Now you want to make sure that the base stations, I have one behind me as well, are clear. I've actually shifted the camera over to the left a little bit to make sure that that base station can see this rover. So then you go to recenter, and it will prompt you. It will use the last rover that you used for the recenter. You're not able to change which rover you're using here, so if you need to change the rover that you're using for the recenter or how it's recentering, you'll have to go into the VIVE MARS and do that. So now I'm going to recenter this, and the recenter was successful. Now we should have a live tracking data, and this should be pretty lined up, as you can see in the camera. Pretty much perfect. I want to go in and I'm going to turn on my Frustum border so that you can see the border there. So you can actually see in the app where virtually it thinks the camera is. It's where the tracker currently is. And we're going to set that offset using our plugin here. So I'm just going to increase the size of the Frustum border. I really like to use 0.5. Now you can see through our camera's view that it's really high. I generally like to put my Frustum overscan a little lower. We can actually put it at something like 0.2. And that will make it really small. You can see it at the top of the screen here. And we'll know when that's aligned once it is in the center of our camera. So we're going to do an offset calibration. So if you go to settings and then tracking to lens offset, we're going to enable that, and then we're going to select the rover we want to use for the calibration. I'm going to use the same rover that I used for the recenter. I'm going to take this. So once you enable that, you should have a little widget in the environment, and this will be where the lens is. So I generally try to line this up the best that I can to the center of the lens. Now this little dot right here, I believe, is actually the center. It's on the back of the Mars, but you'll want to line that up the best that you can and make sure that your camera is level in the horizon axis, so in the horizontal axis. This is definitely a two-person job, but once you have the tracker on there, you'll want to measure from the center of your lens to the back of the tracker. Looks like it's about 14 for me, and we'll put that into the pupil distance, 14 centimeters, and that's gonna offset our tracking back to around the nodal point. Now, if you want to find the exact nodal point, or you need this to be more precise, I would highly recommend going through the setup with the VIVE MARS lens distortion and getting a proper lens offset, which then you can put into here and it will apply it to this camera. So once we have that set, now we can hit set offset. Let me do it again because I think it's a little crooked. There you go. And then you can see the camera is now offset from the tracker. Our tracking is a lot closer to accurate compared to what it was before. And you can see in Unreal that we now have the correct offset. So I think in this situation, I actually, because we used the AR tracking to do the screen offset, it is slightly to the side. So I'm just going to adjust that a little bit. There we go. And now our Frustum camera is pretty lined up with where our camera is. So I'm going to go back to the camera tab. We're going to put in the focal length. I'm going to put in 50 millimeter because that's what we have on here, even though everybody that knows about lens distortion, you know, each lens is not exactly a specific millimeter that is the same as Unreal. I want to go into my virtual stage and actually want to switch into dark mode. I like dark mode more. It's cool. So we're going to go back here and we're going to set some basic camera settings. So our sensor size is 23.5 by 13.22. Now, if we would have left it, that probably would have been fine for in-camera VFX, but I wanted to show you the ability to do that. Now let's set our Frustum size back to, set the scan back to 1. Now it should cover our entire screen. So it's a little off, but that generally is the case when you're doing ICVFX. So we're going to set this to I'm going to set it to 1.3. Now if you need to adjust that while you're going, you can. Have fun, let us know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.